Welcome to season 2, episode 2, where in the Tennis Underground we talk about things other than me breaking my own furniture. We talk about things that we typically that most tennis podcasters or sometimes consumers and tennis players out there just kind of want a little bit more insight to. So today I have Eric again because why not? And yes, it's the same day as season 2, episode 1.
2023.
No, season 2, episode 1 doesn't have anything to do with the year.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, Eric has, even though it was short-lived, Eric has had had a really interesting part-time job during the summer. What year was this summer gig?
I want to say that was 2013.
Okay.
So I will.
So this was, were we living?
We were not living together.
It was just after we stopped living together.
2013,
No,
dude.
No, before. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. So Eric, as a tennis player, had the opportunity and took it to be a USTA official line judge. So you guys know, if you guys have ever played any junior tournaments that's USTA regulated, or even some ITA college matches, there's line judges and officials. Is it what?
State League as well.
State League? At higher levels in the playoffs for State League.
Yeah.
I believe for State League, it was the conference or the sectional champion.
We would do the sectional and then the state champion matches.
And then there's at least roaming officials higher up from there on forward.
Yeah.
Not necessarily dedicated per court, but typically speaking, and this is coming from anecdotal experience, so don't use this as evidence. Those people are typically older with bad eyesight and doesn't exactly have the highest fundamentals and knowledge of tennis as a sport. But Eric, at the age of, how old were you when you did this?
I think I was 21 when I did this. I think I was 21.
Okay, so you're one of the younger ones.
Yeah.
In this training.
So the only one younger than me was
it Will?
Will. Yeah.
Okay, and Will he's a tennis fanatic. Love the guy. I believe he's in Vegas right now as a high school tennis coach. I think he won high school teacher of the year for tennis or something like that.
I could see that.
So
yeah.
he loves the sport of tennis.
Yeah.
But first of all, like, how did you come across this opportunity? Because you're kind of the outlier because you have not only high level experience in tennis, you're also young and you are also a Division III college athlete of one of the highest calibers in that division. So you know what goes in and out of people's brains at tournaments like this. So first of all, how did you come across this opportunity?
It was actually through Will. So I knew he had been doing it for a couple of years now.
Yep. And he's a good, what is it, umpire or line judge?
He's done both. Like he's done some high level shit now. Like
even as a young guy, he was.
I think he's done like D1 college tournaments and stuff like that now.
And he loves it.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, and it's surprisingly good money because that was the thing is like it came to the point where it's like, okay, well, you're a big boy. Maybe you should get a part-time job because my previous part-time job over the summer was being a ticket usher at Summerfest.
What part of Summerfest?
The Marcus Amphitheater. I think it's called something different now.
Okay, so the main stage.
Yeah, I was an usher at the main stage, which has a podcast worth of its own stories. Country concerts were the worst.
Episode 3. I hate country, but
it's sloppy. It was very very sloppy.
Okay, so you needed a big boy job, and you wanted. I'm assuming you wanted to stick around the world of tennis.
Well, yeah, it just seemed like okay, what part-time job that you have can you actually enjoy? And like my first thing was like, okay, well, tennis, either teaching, which it's like it's hard to get your foothold in that, especially at like one of the clubs.
Don't do it.
Yeah. So
don't do it.
Or I thought about officiating. And it's like, well, okay, I probably get to see some high level tennis. It's not something I hate. I'm not working like, customer service somewhere or a cashier or whatever that I'd probably just hate my life most of the time.
To an extent, it is customer service, but it's not in this normal sense.
Yeah, it's not in the service industry.
So you already had this mindset of like, okay, this isn't going to be a forever job.
Yeah, shockingly, mid engineering school, I did not turn ship to USDA umpire.
Okay, so what was so you heard about it from Will?
Yep.
He convinced you.
Yep.
Not only are you going to be around tennis, and it's a part-time job, and it paid well, as you said.
Yeah.
You get to be around Will.
Right. It was nice because
a friend of
I
yours.
had someone that I could, sign up for the same tournaments. I mean, honestly, most of the events I signed up for with Will, especially early on, because he was kind of showing me the ropes. Because like one of the first things I found out is just because you play tennis doesn't mean you can just walk onto a court and be an official and be fine. There's a lot of logistics and procedural stuff that if you don't get right will get you in trouble.
This is for USTA, correct?
Yeah.
So give us one specific example. As someone like me, I've been playing the sport for 25 years. Oh my God. That's a quarter century. Good math, Mark. What is something that, honestly, if I thought I knew everything, but if I didn't do this one thing, I would get a talking to as an official?
If you didn't have your finger on the net tape when you're watching the matches.
Really?
Yeah, you'd get talked to for that. And it's for a very simple reason. It's
You feel it more sensually than seeing it or hearing it, right?
right, exactly. So like we could call lets. It wasn't always on the player to do it. So it's like if someone was arguing it, you could say, "I felt it."
Okay.
And that's honestly the best way to do it.
Finger or whole
No,
hand?
you kind of just can the camera see this? You'd kind of just like do something like
Oh,
this and
okay.
have your index finger.
I
on
thought
it.
he was just on the pole.
Exactly.
That's what I
That's
thought.
what I
Okay.
was saying. It's
Okay.
like, oh, it's just some chub leaning on stuff because it's over 80 degrees out.
And he's old.
Yeah, right.
Number 2.
Two. I mean, you can get in trouble for not roaming enough. I mean, I would say the most dicey things are how you handle misconduct.
And I would be very bad at that. If I...
You would probably cause the misconduct.
Well, I mean, that's a behavior thing, right? So it's typically like how you present yourself towards the people playing or even some of the spectators and, the people that you're working with.
Yes.
So... Yeah, thank God I didn't take that route for my part-time job. Do you have a third one?
I would say the misconduct thing was a third.
Okay.
It was kind of weird for me, being a self-confessed hothead on the tennis court myself. I'm better now, but like back then, especially, being the person who is calling people on this stuff that I have done in spades. Like
You donned the uniform.
Oh
You're
my
the
God,
authority.
yeah. I wasn't your level, but like I could be the
What are you saying here?
I could be the poster child of what dumb shits that South Milwaukee kid gonna say today and gonna code him for.
Okay, so Will reeled you in. It seemed like, why not? In fact, of like, yeah, let's do this. I mean, you're probably pretty excited. Was there an interview or did you go straight to training?
I didn't interview at all. I went straight to training, and I also had to pass an online test that you could take as long as you want, and you had all the answers in a PDF. And a lot of people who take it don't know what Control F can do for a PDF.
How hard was this test?
I got a 98, probably 4 old fashions in.
I mean, you got to drink and for stupid stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, it was beyond easy. I think.
So when you, well, you can't get in trouble now.
I was saying I want.
I'll cut that. Okay, I'll cut that.
I probably shouldn't say that.
Okay, so this is a type of test where you could have a few drinks, do a few recreational things,
I just
and
did it at home.
mindlessly thing.
Right.
Okay.
You could pause it and come back to it. It was very, and like the thing is that wasn't their vetting system. The vetting system.
So why does it exist to begin with?
I don't know. Probably some just
Formality.
exactly.
Okay.
Like okay. Do you know what a tennis ball is? Type stuff. Like, what color tennis ball? What color tennis ball Chris buy?
Is it-
Green dot.
Is it? Are tennis balls technically yellow, or is it like?
See,
more
that
yellow.
would have been a good true or false question. No, I'd call them yellow.
Okay.
But so we did that, and then I would have my training seminar at Whitewater where they went over things with
Yep,
us.
I recall that.
And this is where your infamy
Okay, so
came
wait,
into play.
before we get there, before we get to the spicy stuff, there were other people with you. It wasn't a one-on-one classroom thing.
No,
It was
And even people who had previously been it was an annual thing that the officials had to do.
During this early summer, late spring episode.
Yeah.
Did you see Frank Barnes there, the Whitewater tennis coach?
No.
Were
I
there
don't think
other-
I've ever actually met Frank Barnes.
Were there other Whitewater people there from the team? Like, were they wearing white? Because we were encouraged to do it if we had any inclination to being an umpire.
I don't remember seeing any Whitewater tennis players there.
Okay. Because I do remember as a senior in college, I got that email say, hey, we had this thing, I think like either late May or early June. If you want to be an official, go to it. But I digress. Okay.
Yeah, so we did that, and it was kind of just like pay attention 101. You know, talk about, this is where you came in, the misconduct stuff. That the lady giving the seminar made a obscene motion that she said, oh, you know, you gotta watch for this stuff. Like, because there's a couple of like 6-year-old people in here, and they may not know that like.
How do you not know what this means on a tennis racket?
Good boy. I don't know, man. Like, maybe their eyesight was going bad and it looked like you were just waving.
I think her name was Courtney. The
person, I don't remember her
Okay,
name,
anyway.
honestly. But yeah. That motion, and they said it was a Whitewater tennis player, and I looked at Will,
Will was with you.
and I went and asked her, like, did that player happen to be Mark Sensei? And she said it was. And I was like, it's okay, I know him. And also I am 0% surprised because I've seen him do that, if not worse, on a tennis court.
For context, okay, so what year was this?
2013.
For context, that was not me during college. That was me outside of college, and I think I was playing. Did we?
Well, no, the event happened during college. When I had the training, I was outside, but it was when you were in college that you got in trouble.
I
for
don't
it.
recall. Oh, it was a club tennis tournament. I'm sorry.
Oh,
it wasn't.
man. High stakes.
It was at Nielsen Tennis Center in Madison, and I was playing. I don't know what school it was, but it was club tennis because I didn't make the cut my junior senior year, so it was my latter of 2 years in college, and I'm 100% sure it was a singles match, and I believe her name is Courtney. I would consider her a friend of mine because I went to college with her eldest daughter, and she's still one of the coaches at Premier Tennis Club or Premier Tennis and Fitness in Janesville, which is somewhat near Whitewater. But yes, I did do that motion. I didn't get a point penalty, and I didn't get a talking to, which is kind of weird. So I don't know.
Yeah, that sounds like something you get in trouble for as an official.
Yeah,
if someone else, saw it. So yeah, and from there I was in. I was one of the bunch.
So okay, so 1 day training, probably a background check, which not an issue for you.
Yeah,
Might be an issue for me. Who knows?
probably.
It's just speeding tickets. So like, what was your schedule? Like, you had to show up to matches. Like, what was a normal like routine like schedule for you?
You made your hours, and if I remember correctly, you had to meet a minimum in order to keep your certification.
So it was very flexible, which is like a great
Extremely
part-time
flexible.
job.
You could work as much or little to an extent as you wanted.
You got paid hourly or by event,
Hourly.
and free lunch.
Yep. Most of the time it was
Jimmy John's.
it was Panera most of the time. Dude,
Panera's not
white cheddar mac and cheese and their French onion soup. I loved their French onion soup until
The salt.
my wife told me, she's like, "Oh, you realize that like that one of those cups has 3 times a daily sodium?" Like, me fat.
So did you just work as much as you want?
I would say I picked and choose. Will definitely worked more than I did, but the thing was too, being new, they wouldn't allow me to do certain events until I had garnered more experience.
Even though your experience as a tennis player.
Correct, because it didn't always translate to how well, because a lot of people don't think about this, and I think it could relate to professional sports as well, is they don't think about, are the officials feeling pressure in a pressure situation? You always think like, oh, clutch time. What's Giannis gonna do? Can someone stop? Like, when you're in that situation as an official, like your heart gets going a little bit. You like
Because you don't want to mess up.
right. You don't want to. No official wants to be the reason you're getting talked about on Sports Center the next day.
Oh,
Obviously, that wasn't my
Yeah.
experience, but like even so, you could have people that get pissed at you, people that like you can hear them complaining about your call, and I did actually have to make a match sealing call in one of my events.
But looking back at it now, was that the right call?
yeah, my boss told me it was. I got a raise on the spot for it.
Good. But here's the thing. When it comes to a line call, or God forbid, some sort of behavioral thing, you're always going to piss someone off.
Probably, yeah. It's a thankless job.
Yeah.
and it's like, yeah, who are you? Are you gonna make the person mad because you didn't call this person for misconduct, or are you gonna make the person who's doing the misconduct that probably doesn't think what they're doing is
Yeah.
egregious enough to warrant?
So for the most part, it's one or the other.
Pick your poison.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Which 12-year-old brat's gonna be mad at you?
So you chose, the events you hosted or that you oversaw were boys 12 and under, 14 and under, 16 and under?
Yeah, I did a mixture of that. I don't think it was on purpose, but I definitely did a lot more like boys events, and then for State League, it was a lot more women's events.
Okay, so those are two state league, right? The team state league.
Correct.
Two completely different vibes.
Yes.
Okay.
So, and I can explain to you the main difference between them. So,
Is it just one? Or are there several?
I would say this encapsulates it pretty well.
Okay.
So when you're officiating juniors, my entire time, and I probably did, I don't know, probably a dozen junior tournaments.
That's a lot over a summer.
I had issues that he wasn't mad at me, but I had to default him. I had problems with one actual kid. I had several problems with parents.
So it's almost always the parent.
I defaulted one kid. I kicked out 3 parents from matches.
Okay, so let's talk about the kid.
Okay. Yeah, this is a good one.
So he had several warnings, I'm assuming.
So this was actually at Higher Park in Waukesha. It was a
It's a national qualifier, right?
it was a regional USCA tournament. So it was an invitational. There's kids
Which
from,
is a huge park, by the
Yeah,
way. 16 courts.
Yeah, Iowa was there, representation from Ohio, Illinois, a bunch of different kids there. I think it was like a 64 draw.
Yep. Massive.
And so the main rule in terms of misconduct that I would say people break,
Spectators or
players
Okay.
break, is the deity rule. And
Like
it's something
God.
that's relatively new in Wisconsin.
which
compared-
I don't like.
we would all be defaulted in state league.
Yeah,
every single
100%.
match. So the deity rule is you cannot say anything on court that relates to any sort of religious figure, whether it be Jesus, God, Buddha, Allah,
Muhammad,
anything
Jehovah.
like that.
But isn't that where, like, let's get super technical here, but not political, you could just make up something on the spot.
Right?
So it's not one of
you
the
could-
popular
you could have your own god that's name is like Chizori, and like as long as they don't know it's a deity,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, what is Chizori? It's like, oh, that's my Lord and Savior.
Yeah.
It's like, well, point penalty.
Flying spaghetti monster. Okay.
Yeah, right.
But so that's number one. Can I guess what number 2 is?
Sure.
Swearing
Yeah.
out loud.
Yeah.
I would
That
never
would be-
penalize. I would never penalize swearing under your breath as long as it's like.
And
other
that's
people
the
can hear.
thing. It's like,
Well, what's the
this
decibel
This
level?
is
Blah, blah,
where
blah.
me as a player came in. Like, I get it. If you didn't like shout it, like I understood. Like how many times like fuck
Yeah.
under your breath or whatever. It's like if I like a lot of times you're like, hey, I know you're saying quietly, but I can hear it. Just try not to. I usually
Yeah.
give them like a
A soft like, hey.
yeah,
hey,
right.
I
Like,
get it,
dude. If you keep
better
doing
that than smashing your racket.
right, yeah. And I never had to give a point penalty for racket abuse or
Well,
ball
you
abuse.
clearly have never ever oversaw my matches, but
Against Colin. So, and the thing is, even though swearing is number 2, by far and away, deity. Because you mess up a shot, what's the most common thing you say? Oh my God. Oh my God gets you a point penalty in Wisconsin. And here's where kids screwed this up, especially in the regional tournaments. It wasn't nationwide.
Really?
I think this kid was from Iowa. They didn't have it there at the time.
So he just didn't know.
Well, to be fair, he did know, but I would say he wasn't accustomed to playing in tournaments where you could get in trouble for this. So basically, here's what happened is because it's the most commonly broken misconduct rule, when the officials gather all the players and all the parents together before the match play starts, they explicitly go over the deity rule. Oh my God, Jesus Christ, blah, blah, blah. You will get a warning, then a point penalty, then a game penalty, then a default.
Okay. So you agree, you and I, we don't think that's a good rule. Can we?
Yeah,
where do
I
we
would
stand
say
on
I would
this?
say it would need to be amended because, like, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if it was more stringent now. I'm not in the loop on all that stuff,
Yeah.
but okay. I just think it needed a little more nuance, but it's like that's hard because now you're making things subjective as opposed to one size fits all solution. You say it. Now, here's honestly, I didn't have so much a problem with the rule as so much it wasn't implemented nationwide. When you're doing national tournaments and
As a 12-year-old. So
right,
you're not,
and misconduct rules change depending on the state you're in for saying something as not vanilla, but like as common as "oh my God," like that is like a what's going on now. Most kids, like, because I had to do this a few times. If they get the warning, most of the time they'd stop. I would say like another chunk of that would get 1 point penalty and be like, "Oh man, I can't give up a game." Now this kid, so he got
this is the one kid you're talking about.
yes,
Okay.
they all got warned. I would say like 2 separate instances before match play started. And because the deity rule was so prevalent, when I would be talking to the players, like during the coin toss and such, and like kind of just going over some like
Hey, remember.
housekeeping stuff, like remember the deity rule, guys. I know some of your states don't have this. So now we're up to warning number 3. And he missed a shot, whatever. And he said, "Oh my God." Warning number 4. And that was my verbal warning to him. Hey,
That was the warning.
you
Next
do
is
that
point.
again, you're getting a point penalty. And then it's like just the dumbest crap. He's up 40 love serving, misses a first serve, goes, "Oh my God." I'm like,
First serve, not even a double fault.
yes.
A
And
first
it's
serve.
like, oh, point penalty. He ended up winning the game because he's up 40 love anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, well, it wasn't so much that it's a big deal that you have a point penalty. It's now that you made yourself eligible to lose a game the next time you do it. So he wins the first set like 6-3 or something like that.
Pretty convincingly. Okay.
And then
And these kids are good because they're at this
Oh
tournament.
yeah, I would say like the top end of these kids would probably beat me college junior.
Yep.
Like they're very good.
And they're like,
Yeah. Well, some of them were actually quite tall for their age.
like oh,
Like 5'9", and they're like 12.
they're well fed.
And so then it's second set. He's starting to lose some momentum. I'm pretty sure he lost like 7-5 or something like that.
But he actually didn't have any.
No.
Outburst.
So here's the thing. He lost
panting
the set point he lost. He said, "Jesus Christ," really loud. I said, "That's a game penalty." And he's like, "You got to be kidding me!" Blah 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 blah. And so
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
As an official, go back in time. What if a kid said Jesus?
Deity rule.
I have a friend named Jesus.
Jesus is not Jesus, and context matters. If you don't have a doubles partner named Jesus, then it's up to my interpretation.
Okay, so there is
Right, and
leeway.
I'm not an idiot. I know what you're doing. Like, I had to deal with people talking in Spanish sometimes. They
That was my
swear in a
next
different
question.
language.
That's my next question.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's continue with this.
So for the tally now, we're up to 1, 2,
Game.
3
Is it game and then set, or is it just game and match?
game and match. So we're at warning number 6, I believe
Yeah.
now. So he lost the game, so he starts the third set down 0-1. And they're
Horrible
playing full
feeling.
thirds.
Horrible feeling.
Yeah. And, his opponent got to serve. So the kid actually comes back. He's winning. He's up 5-3
He's about halfway
in the
done.
third set. He's up a break. He's serving, shanks a forehand, goes, "God damn it." And I had to default him.
Were they mad at you or were they mad?
His dad started yelling at me saying, "Well, it would have been nice if you had a little bit more of a warning before you defaulted the match." And I said, well, at that point, it was the seventh one. I said, "Sir, respectfully, is 7 not enough? Like, how many times, like, how would you feel about that as a parent? Clean your room, clean your room, clean your room, clean your room." Like, okay, after time number 7, it's like, all right, fine, I'll clean your room out the window with all your stuff. Like, it just like the dad was watching the match the whole time. It's like, you saw your kid doing this. Like, it's not coaching, but he could just said, "Stop saying that." Like, this kid was, I knew the momentum of the match. This kid was going to win.
First round, second round?
First round. He went into the back draw and he was like the 3 seed of the tournament. Oh,
That must have been a good match, though. If
there was a lot of good matches. However, I will say this is something that annoys me with youth USTA tennis. And I think this is a symptom of you see the stars do it, so you do it. Every single point they won. Come on, let's go. It's like, bro, you put away a little overhead and it's 3-2 15 love. Like, let's relax here.
Slap a forehand winner down break point.
But they see Novak Djokovic do it, and now they think everything they do is worthy.
Dude, it's cancer in college tennis.
Oh, I bet.
Every point they win, they scream. Unforced error, winner. It's
Brian
horrible.
and I were playing at North Shore Elite, and I think
Cardinal Stritch.
Marquette was playing there at the time, and it was just like
every point.
We couldn't talk to each other because, like, even when they weren't screaming, the reverberations of the sound never went away. It was incredible, and like that was one thing about my college conference. Like, it was situational, which is how it should be. I get that. Like, you throw down a dunk on someone, and like you might do a celebration, you score a touchdown, but it's like that'd be like the equivalent of
I passed.
Jordan Love, completed a check down pass for 3 yards. Let's go! Like, bro, relax. So yeah, that was the time I had to default a player.
So the third most prevalent is obviously in the Midwest. The second, the most common spoken non-English language is probably Spanish, right? And given that there's a lot of South Americans or Central Americans and Mexicans that do speak Spanish natively, typically clay courts because that's how it is, and they play junior tournaments or even some adult tournaments and college tournaments in the United States, they're bilingual, and you're not.
No, but I knew enough to be dangerous because of my college teammate Juan, because I knew what he would say.
So what is the rule for the chosen language during a USTA tennis
Any
tournament?
language that you're saying that type of stuff in, if you're saying Jesus Cristo or whatever, like
That's pretty obvious.
still applies.
Yeah.
At that point, it comes down to, do I understand what you're saying or not? And a lot of the times, like, I think I had a German-speaking guy.
Oof.
I just went and talked to him. I said, "I can't understand what you're saying, but you're very animated right now. I'm just going to give you a warning." And he's like, "Well, how do you know I'm swearing?" I said, "I don't, but I have a smartphone and I can look up what you're saying."
So that's where it gets. That rule where you have to be speaking or communicating in English gets complicated, right? It's not because of any type of xenophobia or you're afraid of speaking other than English, which is, I think, a stupid idea to begin with anyway. But what if I just made up a language? What if I just started sputtering Aramaic?
Right. Yeah, you're just saying gibberish.
Yeah.
You're good.
But what if the official, aka you, don't believe what I'm saying is literally just made up? What if you actually think I'm threatening the safety, or I'm swearing, or I'm doing something vulgar in a language that you cannot understand?
This is actually a really good question.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would say, once again, nuance matters.
Sure.
I would look at your body language. I would look at the way you're projecting your ooga booga language.
Which is typically what it is at the end of the day, right?
Right. Yeah. So it's like, if someone started doing that, I mean, probably the first thing I do. I'd probably like recommend a psychiatrist.
As I probably should have checked in a while ago.
But I mean, I would probably just talk to them about their body language and the volume at which they're speaking, because it's like, well, I may not be able to understand Ooga Booga, but I can understand body language and tone of voice.
What if it doesn't align? Like, what if I'm speaking angrily but not loud, and I have a calm composure?
Let me speak to my manager.
Yeah, right. So that's where it is, right? Like that's where like that's what I like about tennis for the most part, is that the tennis ball is either in or out, right?
Right.
But there is nuance where behavior,
Yeah.
right? It's unlike, in my opinion, and prove me wrong in the comments section, but I don't see that in professional NFL or NBA games.
What do you mean?
People travel all the time in the NBA, but they don't get called. It's clearly a travel.
I mean, how many times have you seen things missed by U.S. or by professional officials at the pro level? It's like, what? Show me the mark on the clay.
No, not actually not a lot. There are instances up there, but in my opinion, this is again anecdotal. And you're more of a basketball guy than I am, but I also watch more tennis than you. It's not nearly as prevalent from my experience.
Right. I mean, I would say too. I mean, it does come down to the simplicity of in or out. Like if you're
Sure.
if you're talking in terms of
Behavior's different.
People, yeah, take behavior aside.
I'm talking about something
breaking
binary.
the rules of the game, just playing the game. I would say, yeah, it's more prevalent in other sports. I mean,
Sure.
for sure, like a contact sport like football, you could call holding on every single play. I think
But they
it's-
should, in my opinion.
It's not so much the number of things going on, is the subjectivity of it.
Sure.
Like
But-
block charge in the NBA. It's like, I mean, I was watching that in game one of the Bucks. It's like, well, that looked like a charge. That looks like a block. What constitutes it? You're calling in the heat of a moment, split second decision where it's like, yeah, there's a number of things that are subjective in sports like basketball and soccer and football, but tennis, in terms of like, did you do it? There's like rare instances like, did the ball bounce twice? Did you?
That's very clear, though.
Right. Well, not always. Remember that Roger Federer clip where he was like
With
explaining
Burditch.
through science
Sure.
why he was right, and then you look at the replay and he is. But like, those are also, or like, did someone have technically a double hit? Like these, but these instances
okay.
are exceedingly rare, and like, unless it's like blatantly obvious. If someone shanks a forehand and it kind of like rolled off the right, you're never gonna call a double hit in real time.
Well, I think the rule for double hit is if it's not one smooth motion, but how do you define smooth? Then that's my next question.
My game.
Yeah. Okay. So I didn't want to talk about that, but another podcast. Okay. So let's talk about the Women's State League. And this has to be 40 and over, isn't it?
Yeah.
Based on that tone that you just said like 10 minutes ago.
For I would honestly,
What level?
I would say 60 and over, 3-5 women's tennis. Holy crap!
Okay. So what you said, actually 3-5 or like 3-5? Like, do you recall?
Actually 3-5 women's doubles.
So that's 2 singles, 3 double slots, but you're talking about doubles specifically. So what is this at a regional level or a state level?
This is at state level. This is at Nielsen.
Madison. Okay.
And
So Madison, Fox Valley, Green Bay, Milwaukee.
yeah, and
That-
it's brutal. And really,
Okay.
at that
let's
speed,
see.
really the only thing you're ever calling is foot faults. And even then, like,
Do they hook?
generally no.
Okay.
But it's like the ball's not going fast, and it's like, no one's chasing down lobs at that level. You really have like there's not like the minute margin of error where hooking can even come into play. Like I saw that more so at like the higher levels, obviously, because like, oh, was that 120 serve in a row, as opposed to like, well, that 32 mile per hour serve that landed square in the middle of the service box. I think that one's not up for interpretation.
So what challenges were specific to this 3-5 40 and over women at state. It's a team tournament, so it's a little bit different.
Yep.
And it's is it a round robin or is it a bracket? Depending on how many teams it
Yeah,
is.
whatever it was.
Yeah.
So
But it's a different feel. It's not one-on-one competition.
Yeah, I would say I don't want this to sound the wrong way, but like obviously at that age and at that level of 3-5, it's not going to be terribly exciting. But what I always have to remember is A, this is my job. I can't treat anyone any differently in terms of their level, gender, what have you. I don't care if it's exciting to me. And the other thing I always thought of is maybe it doesn't matter to me so much, but it matters to them.
That's true. But were there any behavioral? I mean, that's the sign of a good
Oh,
employee.
no, they were all angels.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh, that from that standpoint, it was just like, they'd chat with you. Honestly, like
Any of them try to hit on
in
you?
terms of player interaction, I would say 3-5 women like were my favorite people to interact
So
with.
what you said wasn't in any type of negative connotation.
No,
between
it was
the
just
difference. Okay.
it's just the nature of that level and at that age. Like honestly, at that point, you're getting into the good for them for
You're
even
still
being
here.
out there.
Yep.
Like I hope I can play into my 60s.
Scott Cornell.
Exactly. Well, and he was playing at 4-5 level into his 60s.
Okay, so what about the juniors' parents?
So this was probably
Keep in mind, this is juniors.
Yes.
But it's their parents.
so other than like maybe some like travel crap or whatever, it could be just
Traffic.
irritating. Yeah. The parents of juniors were my least favorite part of the job.
By far.
Yeah. Yeah, in terms of something that could wreck my workday. Oh yeah. Then there was a coworker I worked with that was kind of an idiot, but
Worst instance, top 3 worst single instances of the junior kids' parents' behavior.
so number 3 was the one we talked about with the dad.
Okay.
Saying
But that's
that-
kind of tied into.
Yeah.
Okay.
Saying that 7 wasn't enough.
Okay, that's 3.
inexplicably. Yep. So that's number 3. So number 2 was I was officiating at North Shore Elite, and
Close by, at least.
and these 2 kids are having a good match, and apparently the mom had a different score in her head than the players on court did in terms of games.
Who gives a fuck?
Well, she did. and I told she's like, well, they got the game score wrong. They got the game score wrong. I said, ma'am, your son is not arguing the score.
Yep.
It doesn't matter what you say. If your son is going along with the score, and honestly, at this point, it's too late. Like, you can't be like,
We can't rewind it.
right, yeah, exactly. And because of that, she got super salty. And who does she take it out on? She doesn't take it out on me. No, she
really?
did this, and this just made me sick.
Surprising.
She takes it out on her son's opponent. He misses a pretty routine overhead, and she starts.
She could technically do that, but you're kind of a bitch.
Yeah, she was in.
How old was this kid?
Probably like 14, and
Not even in high school.
And to give the kid kudos, he handled it very well. Like he was like sarcastic, like, "Yep, thank you, thanks for that."
Like a thumbs up. Like
Yeah, like kind of trolling her, but like.
But that's
not-
what you should do.
Right, and it's like, what are you expecting to just sit there as this lady is clearly out of line? And I told her, I said, any more of that, and you're not going to be allowed to sit courtside for this match. And she's
Oh,
like,
this is courtside. What bank was this? 9? The big
yeah,
one?
this was 9. So you know
four?
how they
Yeah.
put those chairs right next to
So
like
what-
we're right on court.
Oh, and they were on court.
Yes. Like when this
2, 3,
lady
4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
when this lady was having her like American's airplane flight clapping
Good job.
like we did it. The kid that she was maliciously doing this towards was probably 20 feet away from her. So I thought the kid handled it super well and not engaging with the parent, just kind of like, you're an idiot.
If I was that kid, I would mishit in her general direction. Oops.
So I told her, like, she's like, what? I can't be happy that my son won a play. I said, I know what you're doing. I said, A, it's just in poor taste to clap for someone's error in the first place, or like how you yell, "Come on," when I double fall.
Because we're not friends or anything.
Yeah, right. And I said, I know what you're doing. You can't put this past me. Any more of that? I said, you're allowed to be happy for your son winning points, but you're clapping in his direction. You're giving him a mean look. Just watch the tennis match and enjoy. And then, she felt that the kid hooked her son.
How she
And
felt.
she stands up. You're not gonna call that? I'm like, the ball was in, and like her son's not even arguing. Like I could tell that her son felt embarrassed because he's not even questioning the call, but she is.
And he's 14.
Yeah,
Or less.
showing more maturity than his mother. And I said, "Ma'am, you're gonna have to go."
How did she take it?
About as well as a Karen not getting her order right at McDonald's.
How many minutes did the match get delayed before she scuffled off court?
Probably like 1 or 2. Honestly.
Okay, so not bad.
What really helped was her son said,
Oh, the
"Mom, just go."
The mom or the kid.
The son told her, "Mom,
Man,
just go."
he is not getting McDonald's on the way back.
You're getting the oldest Arby's heat lamp meal.
Number one,
So number one,
make it quick.
Okay, what are we? Are we close for time?
Yeah, my battery's running out.
Oh shit.
Yeah, or memory card.
So Racine Tennis Club.
Okay,
How many minutes do I have?
3.5.
3.5. Okay, I got this. Racine Tennis Club.
90 seconds.
Oh shit. This mom was under the impression that her son's opponent's mom was giving hand signs to her son saying if the ball was in or out. And when she told me that this was happening, I said, "So let me get this straight. You're saying that you guys sitting 20 feet up in a mezzanine, she is giving in or out signs to her son, who he's looking up at her midpoint to determine whether the ball is in or out." And she goes, "Yes." I said, "That is literally not possible." I said, "I haven't seen his eyes go up there once." He's like, "Well, after the point. After the point." I'm like, "What does that matter? He's not changing his call." And so she kept doing that. And she said, "I guess these people just aren't above cheating." So I went and got Racine Tennis Club's tennis director. I said, "She needs to go." And promptly, it was just the absurdity of what she claimed was
That's
going
some
on.
like Illuminati.
Right, that
level.
her son, between every shot, can look 20 feet up at a mezzanine to see what his mom is saying and somehow go out. It's like, none of them hooked each other. It's like, if anything, they gave each other some calls, which is probably what the mom is saying. It's like, "Hey, you missed a call." But it's like, well, he's not changing his call. Who cares?
Do you regret doing this job part time?
No.
It was fun.
It was fun. I did as long as I wanted to. I only did it one summer. If I did it more than one summer, I probably would have started to regret it.
That's fine.
Because I just didn't like it anymore.
Yeah, walk away before you start not
Exactly.
liking it. All right, well, thank you for coming on the podcast again, and hopefully we'll have you on as a guest sometime in the near future. If you guys haven't already, hit like, hit subscribe, hit that notification bell for more original tennis content, and hell, join my Discord if you guys want to have more tennis underground discussions and topics in the near future. And as always, guys, happy hitting.